Rick. Again, guys, thanks for coming on Labor Day weekend. I know your time is valuable. We appreciate you being here with Missouri State Bears football. Little recap, okay? Like we talked about in the locker room after the game, there's things you cannot do to avoid big losses against those types of programs. You can't turn the ball over and give up points. Explosive plays on defense. We were inefficient at tackling, and we couldn't get the stops when we needed them. We would force a few third downs, couldn't get off the field there. They sustained drives that came up with points. Even when you sustain drives, you've got to make a stand at the red zone at some point, get some stops, force them to some field goals. Weren't able to do that, and unfortunately, in those types of ball games, the score is what it turns out to be. Unbelievable roster, top to bottom for USC. We caught them at a bad time. Lincoln and the guys were probably a little upset about the offseason talk, not being ranked. They had a point to prove. And again, we got to do what we have to do and execute at a high level to stay in those types of football games. So it's a good learning experience for our football team. Excited to move on to Marshall and head out to the East Coast.
Is Marshall a tough scout right now? Because, they're such a new team, so many new pieces. And then the way they play against Georgia, they think 10 guys, rush the football, so they're kind of testing their stuff out too. So are they a tough scout? And if so, what have you been able to kind of piece together on Marshall?
Yeah, 100%. You had almost every quarterback on the roster play, a ton of new faces. They had like 50, 60 new players on their roster. So we've been having to, again, it's almost like your summer work, go back and watch the film off PFF for where they were at their other schools, piece those things together, and then watch, obviously, the coordinators that were at their other institutions as well. So it is a little bit of a tough scout, and, they had a tough matchup against Georgia as well. I don't think that's indignant of their football team, just like it's not indignant of our football team. I think they're both talented rosters. I think that it's going to be a great game.
Hey, Ryan, on Saturday, physicality up front, I think that was what a lot of people were focused on. As you assessed it or looked at tape, was the physicality at the level you thought it was going to be at, or was it a little more extreme?
Yeah, I haven't been at the Power 4 level and seeing those types of players participate normally. Anytime you have a D-line that's averaging 6'8", 300 pounds, that's going to be a bloodbath in there. Same thing on the offensive side of the ball. But I do think our players handled it pretty well. They didn't, they weren't scared. They weren't overwhelmed and terrified of the experience. They competed. They did the best they could. And, yeah, that's a mismatch sometimes. And when you look at it, that's a great point that you made. When you look at the very top tier of FBS, when you have an open checkbook, you're going to have a roster that looks exactly like you want it to look. And, we felt that a little bit on Saturday.
Coach, how do you evaluate your coaching staff when you have a lopsided mismatch like that with all their players who should, quote, win the matchups?
Yeah, I think we did a good job yesterday of really dialing in on the film, and you really have three categories. Is it scheme, is it alignment assignment, and is it effort? You have to go through those things as a staff and be just as hard on us as we are on the players, because did we put them in a position to be successful? Were we able to create some things offensively to get guys open? And I think a lot of the times the answer was yes. Same thing that I discussed earlier about the inefficient tackling. There were guys around the football. We're not a broken defense. We're not a broken offense. We're a really good offense and a talented defense. We just got to put it all together.
Speaking of that really good offense, you made it clear on Saturday during the pregame that if you had the chance, you won the toss, you'd take the ball, you'd go down the field. What was the sense on the sideline? You win the toss, you get the ball, your offense is able to move it against a USC defense, and you strike first, you get points first. What was the sense on the sideline at that time?
Yeah, it was great. Again, the power of a made-up mind. We talked about it on our meeting on Friday night even about this is what we're going to do. We're going to go get points, and we were able to do that. Anytime you can get points early on an opponent like that's important. And even the next defensive series, and when you talk about the efficiency and things like that, you got a great call. We can't get their quarterback on the ground. We had a chance to sack him twice for a loss of 5 or 10 yards. The young man's athletic. He's a talented player. We got to make our plays when we have those opportunities. They were able to sustain that drive, put points on the board, and then we saw how it went from there.
Speaking about Maiava, you mentioned before in the scout that you thought he was underrated. After seeing him up close like that, still feel like that was the correct assumption?
100%. I hate that he made me right. Most of the time sitting up here in front of you, I like sometimes I say things that I hope are not true, but that one was absolutely true. He has all the arm talent in the world, and I think that he can, we talked about this, I think, last Monday as well, his ability to maneuver around pressure. And that was as dynamic as it comes. And then again, the playmakers around him, when you've got those types of athletes in the open field, that made it a tough day for our defense.
When you go into this new matchup with Marshall, what are you taking away from that UC matchup that feels like things that you have confidence in going into, whether it be schematically, effort-wise? Like, what are some things that you really felt like you did well on Saturday that's going to carry on the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think our approach and our process was great. I think we traveled well. I think we were prepared for the football game. And it wasn't like our players weren't knowledgeable of what they were supposed to do. I think that was the best thing that came from our meetings from yesterday and some of them throughout the day today is just the fact that we're close. You know, in those games, you just have to execute. If the plan is tight, which I thought it was, and the coordinators thought it was tight, we have to go out there, we have to make our plays, and then be able to adjust when things don't go well. You know, you also have to look at that point of, is the initial game plan a quality plan? And then if it's not, can we adjust and fix it? I think we did a good job coming out of half, trying to create some advantage plays. But again, in a game like that, where there's mismatches all over the field, sometimes the talent takes over.
And health-wise, I mean, you want to come out as healthy as possible. Do you think just when all said and done, did you guys come out as about as healthy as you'd want?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a success. Jill's, we're still evaluating his ankle. It looked really, really bad on film. I'm thankful that it's just a sprain, because when you watch it back, it was not a good look. So outside of that, I think we're pretty healthy. It'll be probably a game time decision on James. James Blackstrain, obviously, he's out with his thumb, so I'm really hoping to get him back. But again, we're going to do what's right for him, and when he gets back, we want him at 100%.
How does playing a gauntlet up front like this, these first 3 games, how's that really help you guys focus in and maybe say, hey, conference schedule should not be as tough as these first 3 opponents?
Yeah, I think when you have an opener against USC, and most people don't want to schedule those types of games, and I think that's a testament to, you know, Patrick and our administration that says, hey, why not open our historic year with a bang? And I think it galvanizes your football team. I think, you know, sometimes when you're forged from the flame, it helps kind of figure out who you are and creates a little bit of leadership opportunity that might not have been there if you're playing cupcake teams early in the season, because real character is revealed through adversity. It's not revealed when everything's going great and you're rah-rah and you're up 80. You really find out who the men are in your locker room when things don't quite go your way, when we're not just, you know, rolling people over. So I think that has been probably the most impressive thing we've seen so far.
Coach, Marshall's going to have the same problem, but how do you assess their game tape against a really good Georgia team? I know they'll have the same problem with you against a good USC team, but speed, size, and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, really challenging. Again, you've got the roster numbers and the depth, but you certainly understand that they went into the game probably holding some things back that they knew that they're good at, that they didn't really want to show against Georgia, because again, Georgia is just as good of a roster as USC. They're big, they're strong, they're powerful, and they knew kind of how that game was going to go as well. That's just part of the deal. So that does create a challenge, but again, you look back at the coordinator's history and kind of see what they've done in the past and then kind of mesh it with the roster. So we'll know more, obviously, once it kicks off.
When you guys ran that flea flicker early, was that kind of just like, let's just throw it out there and just get momentum?
Yeah, I mean, when you do something like that with the flea flicker, the way a team like that pursues the football, you try to overplay their hand. You try to get them to just rush in one way, throw the ball the other. Now, as you can tell, they're a pretty disciplined defense. I talked about DeAnton Lynn at length last week, and it showed up. They had guys stay at home, and there was nowhere to go with the football, and again, it didn't work. So, you know, in those types of big games, you put things on film that you want to try out and try to catch them by surprise. It didn't work, and that's okay too.
Even though they are 2 different teams, y'all did score 13, Marshall only scored 7. You take some silver lining from that?
I love your positive outlook. That's spoken like me. You know, I would like to hope so. Now, again, is that realistic? I'm not sure. It's going to be a great football game. They're a well-coached football team. Tony Gibson does a great job. Obviously, it's his first year as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, he's had some really, really good defenses, and they're going to try to run to win. They believe in running the football, establishing the run game. And I think that because a lot of you guys have alluded to kind of the issue with just one game of game film with all their new pieces, all new coordinators, we have to be the best at adjusting at halftime. Once we settle into the game and once we see what their plan is, we as a staff have to be as dialed as humanly possible to go into halftime, see the issues, see the advantage plays, and go out and have a great second half.
More just on the local guys on Saturday, kind of a lot of Springfield area kids making an impact. I think most notably Ramon Green. Can you just talk about how impressive that was for the homegrown talent to go out there and show in that first day of the FBS?
Yeah, Ramon was tremendous. Man, he can really run the football. He's got great vision. He's got great pad level. And that was not unexpected. Ramon's had a great camp. He's a guy that really showed up in the scrimmages, ran the football effectively, and I'm sure when he was growing up watching Missouri State, he would have never in his wildest dreams thought that he would be running the football at the Coliseum. So that's a cool thing for him and everyone locally that's followed his career. Caden Wiest had a good day. You know, he's done some really nice things. Excited for him to have a big year. And then obviously Cole getting to take his first college snaps was great. Obviously, I wish the timing of the game would have been a little different, maybe some more competitive snaps, but that is what it is. They took advantage of it.
Ryan, will you know until you get through this week whether you might have some personnel adjustments in the lineup for the week?
Yeah, I think we're going to stay pretty tight this week. Again, obviously, when you play the caliber of USC, it's hard to really tell exactly where you're at just because, again, of the size, strength, speed mismatches. But I feel confident about our football team. I said this right after the game with Rick in there and the guys. This is not a, oh, woe was us moment. This is a, hey, let's put that away. Let's learn from it. Let's get ready for the rest of the year. We've got a good football team. We've got a talented offense. Again, like I said, a defense that knows how to pursue, and we just got to get guys on the ground. I'm excited for this week. I'm ready to get back to work.
Questions for Coach?
Thanks, guys.
Ryan, good luck this weekend.